Are we 2:20? Okay. So, Francois, before you read this lesson, have you got more light there? You're awfully dark. It's hard to see you. Same with Bingo, because it's a little dark. The shadow people. You have to include everything in, including the shadow people. Before you read this lesson, Francois, close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Right? One of the things that happens in transformation is that you begin to get happy that you've found a pathway out of your suffering and out of your misery, right? And you begin to lose sight of the motivation for pursuing the pathway itself, which initially for most people was the suffering and was the pain and was the meaninglessness of life, right? Now, I'm not saying to you that I want you to dwell on the meaninglessness of life and the suffering or anything like that. But when you read these lessons, remember why you're reading them. Remember their importance, because you remember what you've come from. In the AA, in the traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous and everything, it's called remembering your bottom line, right? And it makes, in doing that, it makes you more vigilant and more honest, and gives you that sort of impetus to want to do the lessons like really with full integrity, because that the ego will sneak back in, right, and tell you, oh, I'm okay now, I've got A Course in Miracles, or I'm okay now, I've got this book, blah, 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 I'll feel better, right? And one little allowance for anything like that, it's a slippery slope. The ego will just sneak in, and it's very cunning and suspicious and baffling and vicious. And you'll wonder why you're not getting the same result out of doing the lessons. So it's always good to ground yourself and take a few breaths. And it's like, all right, I need to find my full motivation here, my full passion. It's like, I'm a child of God and I want this. Okay. So when you read this lesson, I want you to read this lesson from that place, because I know that place in you, right? It's very passionate. And Megan, I want you to close your eyes when Francois is reading this and try to hear it without judgment. Try to hear it without trying to decide what you think he's saying. It's only a very short lesson. Okay, let's have it. This is going to be beautiful.
Lesson 222. God is with me. God is with me. I live and move in Him. God is with me. He is my source of life, the life within, the air I breathe, the food by which I am sustained, the water which renews and cleanses me. He is my home, wherein I live and move. The spirit which directs my actions. Offer me its thoughts. Oh. And guarantees my safety from all pain. He covers me with kindness and with care, and holds and love. The sun he shines upon, who also shines on him. How still is he who knows the truth of what he speaks today. Father, we have no words except your name upon our lips and in our minds as we come quietly into your presence.
Yes.
Now, and ask to rest with you in peace a while.
Good. Feeling it, feeling those words, feeling the heart that reads those words. I look at this screen and there's like all you guys are on the screen there, and I know the truth behind the images that I see. I've experienced the vision of Christ, and I know that the images are nothing. The images are just coverings over the truth. But yet I want to put my arms out here and like bring you all in and give you all a big hug and tell you how much I love you, and you know, and the joy that I have in knowing that together we've reached this place. We've reached this place of salvation. You know, I look out in the world and there's dick pics and whatever we were talking about before, Tina and I, and this the modern world of communication, where young men feel compelled to send dick pics to their girlfriends, or you know, and things like, it's like the idea of communication in the world is just, it's, you know, and then the idea of communication in salvation, where finally we found something that makes sense of all of our beliefs and all of our hopes and all of our dreams and puts it all together, and we can actually begin to participate together and change the nature of our lives. And I think the hardest thing, you know, and I've heard, I think it was Aurobindo that said this, that his greatest pain is knowing what he knows and not being able to give it to everybody, because there is very few who are ready to receive it or willing to receive it. They're open to receive it. And knowing that every day, every moment, every effort that you put into that process of purification, it takes you, in a sense, further and further from the physical world, further and further from the world of man, and closer to the world of God, or the realm of God. And there comes a point where you just really can't communicate much anymore with those who are still interested in achieving goals in the world and all of that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that you don't have goals in the world, or you don't have to have a job or any of that sort of stuff. You do, but you realize that everything in the world is used on behalf of salvation, and that your purpose, it's like Joe's exactly in the place where she is now because she realizes there's a lesson there for her learning, and also something there where she can give. You know, it's an incredible place where she is. I wouldn't like to be there, but how is it this morning, Joe? Don't tell me, I can guess.
Peaceful.
Oh, well, that's good. That is good. Peaceful this morning. But it's like you're never anywhere for no reason, you know, and knowing that and having a way to process with that is an incredible thing. You know, whereas before you seem to be in this place of, why am I even here? What's the point of me living in this place, of being in this world? And it's like finally salvation comes along and gives you a gift of actually why you're here. You're here to love and to be loved, and to offer something higher in aspiration to the world, that the world is hell-bent on denying. But eventually the world can't hold you down anymore. You reach a point where you've crossed the threshold of salvation, you've stepped inside that doorway, and you're in the classroom. It's like all of a sudden I'm in Jesus's class now, and even though the world is still out there and I still have to walk its pathway 24/7, it's not my purpose anymore. And that's a beautiful thing. It's like I look at the idea of how long we've been here, and I mean, time doesn't exist, and none of this is so. And we could use that forever as a way to avoid feeling how we feel about things. But if I were to look at the part in the Course where Jesus says the ending can be a long, long way off, perhaps even more than it's already been, right? Science estimates that it's already been 130 billion years. Do I really want to keep reincarnating for the next 130 billion years to learn the one lesson that's being presented to me now? That I'm perfect. And so is everyone else. And in that, release all judgments of anything other than that. Doesn't mean that you don't have to continue to face and deal with the particulars of the judgments on a daily basis. Of course you do. But that's the part where you do the work. That's the part where forgiveness comes into play and you apply it and you start to see the changes. But in that too, you're learning that that's even perfect, that those lessons are perfect. They're part of a perfect plan, bringing you to a perfect point of self-realization in your own consciousness. And you really start to trust it. You really start to trust the process. And that's a bit of a term that's bandied around these days. Trust the process, or trust the way. And it's like, it's really true. Faith is its own reward. Like that lesson, I think that Fran read, where we're not asked to take steps along a way of faith that's unsupported, or faith, blind faith. It's like, this is a way where our Father calls and we answer the call. And not only that, but we are also able to call to him and be answered. But we have to learn how to hear. We have to learn how to listen for God's voice. And that's going to be through the Holy Spirit initially, until we learn to hear it for ourselves. So understanding, I guess, that God doesn't speak in words. You may hear God's voice through words because they get translated through the Holy Spirit into a medium that you can understand. But God's expression, God's voice, is through light. Light is the language of love. And we are learning or relearning or reawakening to our true nature of communication, which is light communication. And I found an incredible picture. I thought it was incredible anyway. You guys might just think like, oh yeah, that's cool. But I found this incredible picture of a ring of light in the clouds that somebody had posted. Have you seen it on my page? Yeah, I posted it up. And I thought, what a beautiful representation of something that I've struggled to try and talk about many times, especially in these Zoom meetings. So, especially in these Zoom meetings, because we have language, we have words, we can talk about communication, we can even talk about light communication, but talking about light communication isn't what light communication is, right? It's just talking about it. So when I try to talk about what goes on in my mind, because I went for a massage the other day. This is a funny thing. I went for a massage the other day, and I have very sensitive parts on my body, on my vessel. And if you touch them, my whole body convulses, and they're generally up my spine and in the centers of my feet and things. And that's only been since salvation. And I was laying on this massage table, and my whole body's going, and convulsing. And she kept saying to me, oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that, and whatever. And I was trying to explain to her that it was okay what was happening, but it was like defibrillation paddles, and you see those hospital movies where they put the paddles to restart someone's heart and the whole body goes padum off the bench. That's exactly what goes on. But it's precursored by that ring of light, which is light communication. Now, the reason that initially you may not become aware of that light communication is because human communication has been specifically structured to obscure it, deliberately and specifically to obscure God's love, to keep you in a prison or an imprisonment of a belief that is false, wherein you think that there's a space between me here and God somewhere else, rather than I am God. I'm one with that. I'm one with all things. I'm connected. So the process of purification is a process of removing the blocks, removing the barriers, which thins out the veil between God mind communicating and human mind communicating, simply by reinterpreting the defense mechanisms of the conscious association of the human mind, so that it no longer perceives the impulses that it's receiving from God as human impulses. Right? So Jesus says sexual impulses are miracle impulses improperly interpreted. Right? Now, most people, and or maybe not most people, but I used to have, when I was a young man, I used to have this general sense that to have a sexual climax or to have a sexual threshold or something like that was about as good as it gets in the human experience. That was it. It was the peak thing. You wanted the perfect orgasm, the perfect thing. And there was nothing really beyond that that was as satisfying as it. That was until I did a parachute jump one day, and I thought that was better than anything. It was better than sex. But up until then. And the ego tries to keep these impulses, right, which are occurring all the time, all throughout the day. God's voice speaks to me all throughout the day. Every impulse that you get, I feel hungry, I need to go to the toilet, right? All of these things are impulses. Obviously, you're going to eat. Obviously, you're going to go to the toilet. You can do all of that stuff. The impulse comes from God, though, right? Everything is God. Try to see everything is God. The ego uses it to maintain an allegiance with the vessel, because the vessel is the symbol for separation. So we say, oh, I feel hungry. You might have only eaten lunch an hour ago. Right? Why do you feel hungry? What is the point of that impulse if you've already had food? You see what I'm saying? I feel like I need sex. Or, well, do you need sex? Do you want to have a baby? Is that what you're saying? Or is that just a random impulse that's taking the place of something else that's calling to you? And you have to really line up with Jesus' teaching on that. It's like, well, if I'm truly about achieving the highest integration with my highest purpose that I have, I need to look at all my motivation for everything in the world and see what I'm actually really doing with it, right? I need to see where my blocks really are, and they'll often be cloaked or disguised in quite innocuous sort of, is that the word? Quite normal things. I don't know if innocuous is the right word, but harmless. They'll seem quite harmless. Oh, I want to have sex, or I want to have something to eat, or I want to go to the toilet, or I want to climb a mountain, or I want to do anything. Want. What are these wants? What are these needs that I think I have? They're driven by impulses. Let me perceive the true source of the impulse and be still and try to receive it exactly as it's been given, without my interpretation of what I think I want to use that impulse for. Does that make sense? Fran? Yep.
Yeah,
So
you're clarifying
right.
some important things for me.
Right, good. We have impulses all throughout the day. Jesus says God's voice speaks to us all throughout the day. Right? We never really stop to question what our impulses are, but we give them a purpose that we think must be fulfilled in the world. Right? Most of those purposes are completely unnecessary. All that they do is validate the body. All they do is validate the identity that I think I am as the body. I'm a body. I need food. I need sex. I need people around me. I need people away from me. I need whatever it is. All of these things, all of these decision-making thought processes are driven by an impulse that the ego interprets, and it interprets it on your behalf incorrectly, right? Those impulses are actually presented to you for salvation. They come from God because everything comes from God. Everything. Those impulses are literally God calling you home. Now, what happens from there is this Zoom meeting will come to a finish at some point. You guys will go on with whatever you're doing, and you'll continue to receive more impulses throughout the day for all sorts of different things that you'll attribute to them. In the realization, hopefully, perhaps, maybe, of what we've been talking about in today's Zoom meeting, you'll stop and you'll ask yourself, is that really what I want to use this impulse for? Or am I going to be still for a second in prayer and answer my Father? Sometimes those impulses are really strong. Sometimes they're no more than just a little sort of sense of things. But remember, we're learning to attribute communication now with God, with light, rather than with fulfillment in the world. Right? The highest purpose that man has for communication is procreation. It's the underlying foundation of evolution, to go forth and multiply. That's our base animal instinct as people, as humans, as bodies. Right? Now we're learning to transcend that. We may still have children. We may still go forth and multiply. But there's also something else we're being called for now, and we're in the classroom of learning how to respond to that something else that's calling us. And it's beautiful when you can see it. It's really beautiful. It doesn't interfere with your daily life. It's not something that takes from you anything that you're not willing to surrender. But eventually, you've got to realize, eventually you're going to be leaving this mortal coil one way or the other anyway. Why not be about the debriefing process now? If you were to go on Elon Musk's Starship to Mars, you would have to go through some deep psychological debriefing, I'm sure, because you wouldn't be coming back. That 19-year-old girl that's put her hand up to go to Mars, it's a 3-month trip. Her family's getting something like $25 million for her life, and she knows that she won't ever come back to Earth, and she will probably die on Mars within a month of getting there. You know? How do you prepare somebody psychologically for that? That's much the same thing that's happening to us, except that we're not going to die upon getting there. We'll just realize that we never actually existed in the first place, and the real us will simply be the real us that we've been all along. The spirit. Oh, there's Angela. So, recognizing, and I'll be interested to hear from Francois next week regarding these impulses. It's like how, and when you're younger, of course, they're much stronger, but how successful you've been in identifying miscreative thought processes, miscreative expression. I don't know if expression is the right word there, but any questions, Vinka? No? Anything?
Yeah, I do have a question. It's interesting because I just had the realization that to get here to this point, most of my life has been miscreation. And I'm seriously thinking now, and it's part of my every day. I think to myself now, I go, actually, what you've been saying, really,
Right.
try to be mindful of what I'm doing. So
You've got a bit of a crackly connection there, Vinka.
Yeah, I'm a crackly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Crackly and miscreative. Crackly, cackly, and miscreative. That's all good.
Yeah.
We might just mute your microphone because that's coming through on the. That's better. Angela, welcome. Since you've just turned up late, Angela, you can read. Hang on, if you would. Oh, 112, lesson 112. I don't even know what that one is. 112.
Yeah. I share God's will for
Oh, it's the
happiness.
review. Where are we? No. No, less 70. Ah, this is it. It's a review of lesson 93 and 94. And then we're going to do a round robin.
So I'm reading lesson 102.
112.
No, 112.
112.
112. You can read 102 if you want to.
So lesson 112. The morning and evening review. Light and joy and peace abide in me.
Start again. Take a deep breath. Slowly in, slowly out. I want you to connect. Ready? Okay, go again.
Light and joy and peace abide in me.
Yes.
I am the home of light and joy and peace. I welcome them into the home I share with God, because I am a part of Him. I am as God created me. I will remain forever as I was created by the changeless like himself. And I am one with him, and he with me.
Good.
On the hour, light and joy and peace abide in me. On the half hour, I am as God created me.
So we're going to do a round robin of that lesson. Just an hour and a half hour. Start with Francois. Out aloud, light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me. Before you speak the words, close your eyes, connect with the words that you're about to speak. Connect with how that makes you feel. In feeling those words, in seeing those words, and speak from that place. Whether that's a painful place or whether it's a joyous place, it doesn't matter. Speak from that place because that's your honesty. Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me. Take a breath and then read the words.
Light and joy and peace abide in me.
Good.
I am as God created me.
Kevin.
Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me.
Jen.
Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me.
Fran.
Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created.
Joe.
Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me.
Anna. You have to unmute the microphone.
Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me.
Binka.
Light, joy, and peace abide in me. I am as God created me.
Good. Tina.
Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me.
Angela.
Light and joy and peace abide in me.
You read the last bit.
I am the home of light and joy and peace.
Can you read the last bit? Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me.
I am as God I am as God created me.
Good. Allowing the words of Jesus through this course to be the truth of our being often brings up great resistance, great emotional energy, because we have a back history of feeling unworthy and unloved, which tends to contradict everything that we're reading in our course and everything that we're being told is true about ourselves. And to finally come to a place where we're learning again, it's okay to love myself. It's okay to give my love away everywhere and anywhere. To listen to that voice that speaks for unconditional love, which includes me, rather than that voice which tells me I'm a piece of shit or I'm not worthy. We are one. We are one. My salvation is yours and yours is mine. We're all in this together. We raise each other up. We come together in these Zoom meetings, and I don't want to liken them to recovery meetings for alcoholics or anything, but they're kind of like recovery meetings for self-doubters. It's like, God damn, I've been doing this to myself for so long. And now I'm taking on board something else that's going to relieve me of my burdens of my past associations and cast me into a reality where there's no association other than love. I remember in the weeks leading up to my enlightenment that all I wanted was love. All I wanted was love. I didn't want anything in the world. I didn't want anything. I'd looked at it with open eyes and seen how pointless it was. Anything I did, I was just going to die. I just wanted love. I wanted to love everybody. I guess I was kind of like John Lennon. All you need is love. And I wanted the world to reflect that back to me. But in my ignorance, I wanted it to reflect it back to me in a way that I thought verified what I thought love was, rather than actually love as it is. And in this world, as above, so below, everything here actually is love. But it plays out in the form association as all sorts of horrific things sometimes. Jesus says delay in time is tragic. People go off to war in the name of love and peace. Domestic violence, that's love. You may want to refuse that. You may want to push that away and go, that is not fucking love. But that is a lesson in love being presented, and therefore it is love on a threshold. And there is always another way to react. And if you remember that the escalation of a relationship, whether it goes one way or the other in the world, is directly the results of my own choices. And that can be a bitter pill to swallow, that I'm doing this to myself. And I remember when it first dawned on me in the days after my enlightenment that the world wasn't real. I didn't want to accept it. I did not want to accept it. I had real trouble wrapping my head around the fact that my whole life had been a lie. Mostly because I equated a lie with being bad. But when you equate it with just being an illusion or another form of life, it's not so bitter. I realized that I'd been shown reality, and that what I thought was reality prior to that was just a different form of reality that wasn't my home. It's like if I went to Japan and I stayed there for such a long time, I forgot where I'd come from. And I would think Japan is my home. And then somebody comes to me and they say, hey, you're from the same place I'm from. We're not from Japan. Let's remember where we're from together. It's like, holy crap, I've become accustomed to Japan, so accustomed to it. Letting go of it's going to be hard because it's in my memories, it's in my being, it's in everything. I'm going to need a miracle. The world is like Japan, and eternity is where we come from. It's important to take time out each day. It's important to set your day up properly before your feet hit the floor in the morning. Today, I would have a day of peace. Today, I would have a day of love. It doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to go. In fact, probably it won't. But if you set that as your goal, if you set that as the determination for your day, you have at least a chance to remember that you've made that setting and to go back to it when things seem to go astray. This is a course in remembering. This is a course in remembering what it is that I'm about, what it is that my true purpose on earth is. I am perfect now, but that's not how I find myself. Right? In the course, Jesus says, it is your job to become perfect. Initially, that's through accepting our imperfection. Oh, I'm perfectly imperfect. In that, I'm perfect as well. As a human being, as a false belief of myself, that's a perfect false belief. But I have to accept it without judgment. When I realize and when I'm told that what my sense of self is, what it represents as the denial of God, is my own doing, it tends to initially want to become the motivation for more guilt. It's only when you realize that you didn't know what you were doing, that you are actually guiltless, that you're a child, you're an innocent child. Francois, there's no reason for guilt in you whatsoever. Finca, none. You didn't know. When Jesus says, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. That's us he's talking about. Not Roman soldiers. Us, me. I don't know what I'm doing. Even post-revelation, having been shown the truth, I still often fall into the pitfalls of judgment and condemnation and all of these things. However, now, luckily, I have the technology of getting myself back out of that by remembering, hang on a minute, that's not my purpose. Pulling myself up by the bootstraps and starting again. I wanted a day of peace. I wanted a day of love. So accepting my perfection, accepting that, like it says there, light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me. That's a process. It's the truth, and it's also a process. It's the truth here and now. I am as God created me. I couldn't possibly be otherwise. What God created can't be changed. But my acceptance of that as a functional expression, as my doing and being, is something that I come to terms with through the act of forgiveness. And I'm only ever forgiving myself. Forgiving myself for my judgments of others, and forgiving myself for my judgments of myself, for judging others or judging myself. It's an all-encompassing, steamrolling snowball of forgiveness. It blankets everything in its way. It's beautiful. That is my purpose. Forgiveness is my function. It's not like I forgive once and then it's done. I forgive and I remember that forgiving is, in this world, forgiving is the same as giving. I am created for giving in this world, and I am created in eternity for giving. God only gives. In this world, it's the backwards of that. God doesn't actually ever forgive. God offers me forgiveness as a way of me realizing that nothing ever happened, nothing ever went wrong, and as a gentle kind of way for me to be able to broach the gap between where I think something happened and something went wrong, and where what God tells me is the truth is my reality. Otherwise, that gap is too vast to span consciously. I can't imagine what it is being here in the world and being in eternity at the same time. It's like a paradox. I exist and yet both don't exist at the same time. So I'm forgiving my non-existent self and the beliefs that are around that in favor of God's promise to me that I have a true self. Right? It's literally a doorway between dimensions. It's a transcendental step. We've been in this dimension for long enough. It's time to go home. It's time to wake up. And at times the process is seemingly difficult and seemingly arduous and seemingly, when the hell will it ever stop? I love salvation, but I wish it would stop now. Thank you, Jesus. I just want to be on the other side of it, where Jesus tells me I already am. But accepting where I find myself now is the key and the honest key for being able to process and trust the process and do all that sort of stuff. So when we read that lesson, when we read that round robin lesson, light and joy and peace abide in me, I am as God created me. For some of you guys, you're able to read it perfectly well without any emotional hiccups. And some of you almost fell to pieces, right? There's no right or wrong or better or worse. It's just that's where you're at. It's like a marker point or a waypoint. All right, where am I in my acceptance of what Jesus is telling me about myself? Where does that resonate with me? Where does it really sit with me? It's easy to read the words in this book and go, oh, that's where I'm at. But am I really there? Is that really where I'm at? And that's where honesty comes in. It's like, no, I'm all fucked up. I'm all fucked up. Jesus tells me I'm whole and perfect, but fuck you, Jesus. I'm not. I'm all fucked up. I need help every day. I need help every day to get through the goddamn day, because every day is the same shit. I need a miracle, right? Jesus knows we need miracles. He wrote a goddamn book called A Course in Miracles, specifically for us. 365 lessons for dummies. It's okay. It's okay to admit you're one of the dummies that needs 365 lessons. Some of us are God's slow learners. Remedial class. And that's okay. We're included. Francois, you're included in salvation. I'm not leaving here without you. You got that? I'll be with you forever, whether you like that or not. All right, any questions? Angela, you have a question. You have a something. Let's have it. I like to clear the air, you know. I like to give you guys the opportunity to step up, because I mean, I know these Zoom meetings, they're confronting, or they can be confronting, but it's like out in the world, do you ever get that chance to be confronted? Do you ever get that chance to actually stop and have things fall apart you know, because it tends to be that the world is a place when you're out there and amongst it, it's like you've got to keep up appearances and you've got to just keep going. And that's horrible. It's like one of the things in therapy, and like all healing is therapy, one of the things in therapy is allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Right? It's a key point. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable if you feel like it, not because I say so, if you feel like it. I'm just going to point you out in a crowd and go, hey, what about you? And you'll be, no, nothing to see here, folks, but maybe there is. I'm usually pretty tuned in on things, so. What's going on?
Well, do you remember when you gave Barry an assignment to do?
Right, yeah.
Right. Well, when you were actually talking about the assignment for Barry, you were saying that Jesus sent his disciples all over to Greece. And after that Zoom, I thought, oh, well, I want to do that. So I went to Greece. And I don't know, I just had to go. And I picked an island, and I went up to this, I stayed in this really way out village, and there was a castle there, and I had to go to the castle. Don't know why. I spent 3 days going up each day. Nothing happened. The last day before the flight home, I went up to this castle, and there was a woman there, and she looked at me and I looked at her, and we both literally, we were happy, we were sad. There was this connection, and I just said to her, I don't know why. I don't know why I'm here. And she just pointed above and she said, he knows why. And we spent hours. I can't describe the emotion, the happiness. It was unbelievable. I've never experienced anything like it. Like we knew each other, but we didn't know each other. And I spent the rest of the day before the flight with this lady who I felt I'd spent a lifetime with, but I didn't know her. But I knew I knew something. There was some reason I had to go there. And it was wonderful, wonderful. Just the feeling, I've never had feelings like that before. And I knew I had to tell you about it because it started because of that conversation you had with Barry. Unbelievable.
I knew you had to tell me about it. You've been sitting there busting at your chops to say something. I've been all the whole
I wanted to say, yes, I wanted to. I did. I wanted to say it. It was amazing. And I would never have thought of doing it.
That's
Never.
good. I would never have thought of doing it. It's because you didn't thought.
Yes.
Right? You took no thought for it. You just did it. And you didn't know why. Right? That's a given thing. That happens. That's happened to me, well, pre-enlightenment, but many times. I had to climb Mount Warning. I didn't know why. I just had to do it. And I spent the night up there by myself on the top of the mountain, nearly froze to death. But same thing exactly. Right? Same thing. Hang on a second. You took a leap of faith. You went with it. You did something that you had no rational and reasonable recognition of why you would want to do that. You followed your gut. You followed your inner direction. You followed that sense of things. There's more to it than that, but I'm getting the feeling I'm not supposed to say anything, so I'm not going to say anything. If it comes to me to tell you, I will, though. That's good. That's beautiful. Tina probably knows which of the videos that Mount Warning story is in, where I met the 3 people at the top of the mountain. She'll send you the link for that.
Angela was there. That was a meeting that we were with. Do you remember that?
Oh, you were there, Angela, in that one? Oh, okay, all right. So you know.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Pretty
I
sure.
was.
That wasn't the other thing that I was to tell you, or not to tell you, but there's a lovely book. I think it's The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's a fictional book. Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist. Where it was one of the books I read, and I really couldn't tell you the basic story of the book now. It's a journey book, but it has a lot in it about where you're guided to do something. You don't even know why. You don't even know what the motivation is for. You just feel you've got to do it. It's like the impulses, the impulse that made you want to go and do that. And you went to Greece and you went to that place and up to the castle and all of these things. I'm just going to leave it there. The impulse was unclouded. That's what I want to try and tell you. We were talking just earlier about impulses and how the ego gives them a value and wants to get you to use them to verify the body and blah, 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 blah. Right? You had an impulse and you didn't cloud it. You allowed it to guide you, even though you didn't know why, and you went with it. And that's, you know, I want to tell you the rest. I'm not allowed to. I want to tell you the rest, but I know our next Zoom meetings are going to be interesting as well. So because of that, in that same vein, that's good. That's lovely. That's fucking beautiful, actually. It's a shame Bernadette wasn't here to hear that story. Bernadette's in exactly the same place as that, exactly, to the nth vibration. The only difference is she's allowing those impulses to be clouded. It's good. Angela, that story is more joyous than you are possibly even aware of. It's more joyous than the joy that you had with that woman. To me, it represents something that's much, much more. I can't say anything else about it, but I want to. I just want to. If I say it, I'll corrupt it, so I'm not going to. I'll just leave it. Thank you. Thank you, Father, and thank you. Anna?
Can you not unmute? Here.
Oh, you're stuck?
There we- Yeah, my
Oh.
phone didn't want to unmute. I don't know what's going on.
I never know what's going on.
Yeah, so I recently started a new job. at a chiropractic clinic. And so now
Nice.
I work, so now I work with a lot of like auto accident people. And it is so unbelievable the amount of craziness that's showing up in my mind with these injured people. Like, I am so exhausted, and I know this is awesome because it's a perfect opportunity,
Yep.
but I've
Thank-
been like so exhausted working, getting through that. So, and it's like I've only been there like 6 days, and the ego's already tried to talk me into quitting.
Right.
So, yeah. And then also,
Yep. Now go on.
So you talk about cycles, and I've had a crazy situation come up recently, and it's a cycle from the past. So I used to work for a hospice called St. Francis, and when I worked for them, they were going to send me to a patient, and I declined going to that patient because I was fearful. He has like really severe contractures, half his head is missing, all these things. And so I gave it to another therapist. I just totally avoided that whole situation. So now this is years later, I'm working for a different hospice. This patient has moved from one facility to another, and he is now my patient years later. And I can't say no. It's so funny, these cycles, how that even, now I have this opportunity to
All right.
to
So
be
stop.
about it.
Why would you say no?
Just for the fear.
Right. Not that I don't need to know this, okay? I want you to hear you say this. Why would you say no to attending to that patient? Be honest. It's a surface reason. It's
I guess just for the discomfort of seeing someone so severely, deformed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fear of bodies is a recognition of truth. Somewhere in your mind, you know that the truth is with you, which is eternal, changeless, and formless. When you see a body that's damaged or a body that's like that one, right? It brings up the recognition of imperfection, right? And on some level that you don't identify with, that you don't necessarily know that you're identifying with, you react to it. Because perfection is what you're looking for in a body. And it's as far from that as you can get when you have to treat someone like that or see something like that, right? The objection to damaged bodies by the ego is it's almost as if, or it is as if the ego doesn't want to look at it. No, don't look there, because then you'll start to question. You'll start to question, how come God this, how come God that? It's the same thing when you see little children that have cancer and stuff, and you're like, how can God let this happen? And rather than question and rather than look at it, you recoil from it and try to block it out and pretend it's not there and it's not for you and it doesn't have to be part of your reality, which is a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
At some point, I mean, it's kind of funny how the setup of this goes. It's always perfect, right? So at some point, you're going to have to treat that patient, right? And Jo's in much the same situation. She works in hospice care as well, right? So at some point, you're going to have to treat that patient. And to do that professionally and spiritually, you're going to have to first confront all your ideas about it. Otherwise, you're going to still be defended when you're in that room with that person, and you're still going to be defensive in your response to their requests and their needs and everything else. And it'll become a struggle, and you're going to feel more exhausted because you're in a state of judgment and in a state of trying to resist your own judgment. Right? So the idea then of, all right, I need to see the truth here rather than this broken body.
Yeah.
That's in my thoughts. It doesn't matter about the play out in the physical world. That's nothing. That's the effect. This is going on in my thoughts. I remember when I was a little boy and my friends and I went into the toy store, and there was a little boy our own age in a wheelchair, and he was trying to reach for some toy on the shelf that was just above his reach. And my friend and I were standing there looking at some other toys, my friend Mark, and this boy in the wheelchair came up right beside him, and Mark had a really instant reaction and had to run the hell out of the toy store. That boy in the chair affected him so badly. Like something was triggered in him so badly, he left the toy store, and we couldn't understand what the hell was going on. We were only kids. You know? Yeah. It's the same thing. The ego reacts to broken bodies as if they're an indictment on its creation or its miscreation, even though miscreation is its purpose. You know, the ego doesn't care if you suffer and die and whatever, and as long as it's under the ego's control. But when you're presented with suffering and death to a point where you react to it, you want to defend yourself against it. It's like literally there's an opening there. Literally, there's an opportunity there to lay defense aside and realize the Christ. That's in everything. But obviously in you, there's a strong reaction to that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not good or bad. I mean, all of us will have a strong reaction to one thing or another in the world. All of us will want to not face some situation or another in the world, whether it's a damaged body or a violent partner or a whatever the hell. You know, there's each of us has our cross to bear, let's say, in that regard. But for you, this is yours. I just think it's funny that it's followed you around again.
Yeah, well, it's funny too that like I originally said,
guy.
It's the same exact guy, and I had said no to it just because of how they had described him, you know, without even working with him. And this time I had really no description except, you know, that he had contractures, and I got there and I was like, this is the guy I avoided.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an easy one to get through though. It's like losing your virginity. Once you do it once, you know what it's about, and it's like, you know, fair enough. No biggie the second time around. But the first time there's all these reasons why, you know. Good. I'm glad you took another job. Something needed to change there. So that's good.
Yeah.
Just remember that the exhaustion that you're feeling is because of the weight of constant judgment.
Yes, I do. I do know that.
Right. So you're in the perfect scenario to recognize the weight of that constant judgment, just so that you can begin to apply the principle of forgiveness, which is what you're now learning about.
Yeah.
You know? And as with everything in these stages, as with everything in transformation, this too shall pass. Right? It's good to be out of your comfort zone. I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Like everything's out of my comfort zone right now. So
good.
Yeah.
And it's good that you're recognizing it. It's good that you recognize your ego trying to tell you should quit to go back to something easier and more comfortable rather than sitting up and having to, you know, fulfill your role as savior of the world.
Yeah. No running.
No running. That's it. No back doors, no safety zones. Just remember, your brother is not a body, half a head or not half a head.
Yeah.
Wake up and go in the morning there into his room. Hey, half head, how you going?
He's so cool. He'd probably laugh.
I'm sure most people with disability, a physical disability, usually are able to laugh at themselves quite well.
Yeah.
Joe's good. I know Joe's good. Joe and I had a nice chat the other night. It's lovely. Jennifer, let's do this. You ready?
Okay.
What's going on?
Well, I just put my cat to sleep yesterday and had him since he was a kitten, and he was 18. And the ego thoughts are coming in saying, you did it too soon. And
He was 18, babe.
what's that? He's 18, right?
He was 18. That's a good long life for a cat.
And yet I had complete peace going into it. I mean, it was sad. It was sad. And I had what I call a full body yes to go forward. I'm just noticing the ego thoughts that are coming in.
That's good.
And diving into the truth is helping a lot.
So long as diving into the truth isn't a way to offset how you're feeling about it.
Mhm.
Like I always encourage you to be honest about your pain, honest about your grief. Don't try to offset it with something else, even if it is the truth. No, because we're learning that our pain is actually useful. It takes us to a deeper place of prayer.
Mhm.
So other than that, grief is I don't know. Grief is it's natural, really.
Mhm.
Like it is in a sense its own form of release. And so it sort of abides within the Holy Spirit's curriculum of releasing. But the idea of grief, you know, when you go to I shouldn't laugh really because people take these things so seriously. When you go to a funeral and like there's a minister up there, right, at the pulpit and saying all the lovely words and probably quoting from the Bible and talking about the afterlife and the body and the soul. And it's at every funeral, right? And you look around the congregation at any funeral and there's like probably only 1% of the people there that know what the hell he's talking about. Everybody else is just there because they feel obliged to have to be there and listen to this guy because it's what they do. It's the process. It's the thing. But nobody really oh, yeah, John, that's good scripture. John 6, or whatever. And, oh, that's nice that you would say that at the funeral. It's like, nobody cares. It's this thing. All that's going on, though, is this kind of entryway to be able to release the emotionality of how you feel about the passing of that person, animal, whatever, right? The surrounds of it and the little ceremony and the ritual that we give to it as, let's say, an authority to be able to release that, or part of the process of releasing that, is incredibly superficial. But yet we seem to need that thing. We seem to need that comfort zone to be able to look around us at each other and say, it's okay to cry at funerals, it's okay to think. But yet in truth, somewhere we know there is no death, even for little kittens and cats and dogs and everything else. And there is really nothing but cause for great joy in the transitional states of life on earth, regardless of how, being born here seemingly or leaving. It's an incredibly joyous thing. We're seeing life in its many forms, transmuting through its own natural process. It's not really a reason for grief, but we label it grief. We label it mourning. We label it all these things as if somehow something maybe is lost or has gone from our lives, rather than realizing the inclusive nature of our own existence with that reality that that other creature seemed to exist in as well with us, you know? So that part of it's really, really beautiful. I love it. You know, it's like when my grandmother passed and I was at her funeral, I had to excuse myself because everybody was there with their veils and their dark clothes. I couldn't stop laughing. I literally couldn't stop laughing. I had to get up and go outside with the couple of my uncles who were having a cigarette, and they had no clue what the guy was talking about up on the pulpit. They're having a cigarette at my which I thought was more disrespectful than me getting up to go out from laughing. But, you know, that's a natural thing. I can understand the emotionality of it that seems to be coming up in you now. But it's like when you were reading that before and I said to you just to be with it and allow that is the process. That's beautiful. You know, the more you see it as beautiful, the more you'll embrace it and the more you'll give yourself permission, in a sense, to actually allow the fulfillment of that passage in you. It's a great thing. It's one of that's why people go out and they say goodbye. They'll place a flower on a grave or do something symbolic. It's like Angela going up to that castle. She took a symbolic journey through the realm of symbols to meet another woman who symbolized something. Everything here is symbols, you know. And just in the same way, and just see if this resonates with you anywhere, right? Just in the same way that Angela went up to that castle and did all that stuff, and she didn't know why, there's probably something in you. I'm willing to wager a fair bet. There's something in you that wants to do something in the idea of the release of all that emotionality for the cat and the saying goodbye and everything else, that also you're not going to know why you need to do it. You just feel you want to do it. And it's like everything in the world is done in stages, or cycles is learning, but stages as well. Just like growing up, we go from infancy to childhood to adolescence and to adulthood and old age and all that sort of stuff. There are stages, just as there are emotional stages and things that we go through which are brought on by trauma or by joy or by other things that are labeled in the human experience. You know, just because we find a spiritual book of A Course in Miracles and it helps us deal with our pain doesn't mean that we should particularly try to avoid going through those stages and giving honor to those and allowing them to take us where they need to take us. You know, if you feel bad, let yourself feel bad. There's nothing wrong with that. If you feel lost and alone and empty and whatever, then allow yourself to have that. You know, on one hand, it's an incredible gift because when you're back in eternity, you're never going to be able to experience that again. The idea to be able to experience it, however, and it would bring you no joy, right, is only because you're experiencing it without the realization of how precious it actually is, how much of a gift it actually is, how beautiful it actually is. There's a whole transition of emotional state possible in you through that experience with the cat. Let yourself have it.
Yeah.
You know, let yourself have it. Don't try to pick up the course and make yourself all better. I mean, if you want to, do it, but otherwise just trust that that's perfect as well. You're going through it perfectly.
Yeah, it does feel like a gateway into
Right.
more experiences.
Right. It is. Absolutely it is. We so often try to push down our emotional responses to things. We try to avoid them and deny them and pretend we're not really affected by them. It's like, no, fuck it. I'm affected by everything. I'm totally affected by everything. I'm also entitled to miracles. But when I'm affected by everything in the realization that this is just a transitory state in the journey of my soul, I don't really even need a miracle, because I only need the miracle to remember that. I only need the miracle to bring me back into alignment with my truth. Once I'm living in my truth, all the transitory states on earth actually become kind of joyous waypoints. You know, they're like photographs in a family album. It's like, wow, that was beautiful. And rather than lament the loss of the cat, you become joyous and grateful for all the beautiful times you had. You know, as that being that came into your life to bring you that joy. It's like me, I have dogs. I don't at the moment, but I love having a dog around. You know, dogs represent something to me as a symbol that have this kind of affiliation with unconditional love. If you treat them lovely, perfectly and kindly, they'll do the same for you back. Exactly. Cats don't tend to resonate that way to me. I know other people think they do, but cats tend to be a bit more like moochers. They mooch off you.
No, I had two good ones. His sister, who she just passed away 2 months ago. So I had them together for 18 years, and they just went 2 months apart.
Yep. That's nice. It's good.
And then in between the 2 months ago to 2 days ago, our neighbor passed away, and I was at a funeral just a week ago. So it's been in my face lately.
Good. Looking at death, looking at passing, looking at whatever that means to you.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Allow yourself to look at it then. Don't try to offset it with spiritual teachings or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The teachings are only ever going to bring you to a point where you're defenseless against how you feel. You allow yourself to be vulnerable to it and open to it. Because like you said, it is a gift. Everything seen rightly is a gift of learning, a gift of growth, a gift of opportunity to come closer and closer to the truth of yourself, which is love, unconditional. You know. Now apply that in the place where I seem to suffer a feeling of loss or regret or whatever. It's like, hang on a minute, I can't be love unconditional and feel regret and everything. There must be another way to see this. There must be another way to view this situation that allows me to remain in my sense of self as being love unconditional, like we read in that lesson. Light and joy, peace, and peace abide in me. I am as God created me. I can't just be as God created me sometimes until grief comes along. So therefore, let me see grief differently. Let me see death differently. Initially, we see death through learning our course lessons as an illusion, as something that doesn't actually exist. But in the physical nature of it that we seem to experience, obviously it's a point of transition in my thinking about myself. And in that, it's kind of beautiful. It's actually a light on the pathway showing me my way home. It's like, holy crap, I'm learning to remember about eternal life through that which seems to be representing the opposite to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I'm becoming more present, be here now, be present.
Yeah. Good. Joe, you have anything you want to say? You good? He's good.
I have to go to work.
Oh, good. Okay. Go to work then.
Take care, everyone. See you next week.
Fran, don't tell me you're all good.
I don't have a clue, but I actually, if I'm as God created me, I am, but I've been listening what is tonight for me, and there's been things happening that have something Anna said just these patterns and these things. Oh, okay. Just realizing the lies I've believed about myself, and just watching. I don't really have any words. I have a practice I love that's, I don't have words.
It's okay. That's good. You know, as a teacher, it's my job to lead you to a place where there's no more need for words. So so that's kind of cool.
Well,
I feel maybe I'm
you will
succeeding.
pass.
I just have to get myself there now. The place where and this is to do more with, I have no words or no use for words. Words are symbols. It's not like we're ever not going to use our words. You know, you go to the greengrocer and I'd like a pound of bananas, please, or whatever. And you need words. You got to use your words. But in your communication, your true communication, it's like, and this is one of the things that I'm never certain of with the Zoom meetings, right? So if Bernadette was here, Bernadette has, I don't know how to talk about it because I'm talking about something the rest of you guys maybe are not familiar with, or maybe you are, but Bernadette has a threshold in her that she keeps bouncing off of, which is light activated, right? Everybody has it. Tina's has it as well, but she doesn't bounce off it. She stays there, right? But we use words to deny that. The light threshold is like when you come up against, and I don't even know, it's not even a term, I just made that up, but the light threshold is where consciousness ends and true light communication begins. Jesus talks about it in the Course as a veil or a mist, you know, like mists that disappear before the sun. That mist is like a blindfold in your consciousness that prevents you from realizing your higher mind. You believe there's a limit to the power of your mind and that you can't go past what seems to be. It's like if you look into your thinking and you try to find the origin point for your thoughts, you can't find it, right? Ramana Maharshi used to say, try to find I am. Try to find the I am of your thinking and sit there. You won't be able to find it, but you will find the threshold of your thinking. And it'll be as if the lights are on, but nobody's home. And you'll be like, who the fuck is thinking these thoughts? Where are these thoughts coming from in my head? Where do they originate from? And you won't be able to find the source, right? It's not that there isn't a source. I mean, the source itself is illusory, but you find the veil. You find that limit in consciousness, right? Now, on the other side of the veil is pure light. Jesus talks about it as the miracle level of mind. You've got the subconscious, the conscious, the miracle level, and then the superconscious, which is the domain of God, right? When I have a moment of doing that, opening my mind, right, I'm pushing up against the conscious veil in my awareness of myself here. And on the other side, it's meeting with me where I'm doing that. And if I sit there for a second long enough, I get a flash of light. It's like when you look, you have a black curtain, and if you really push your face into it, you can see light through the fibers. You know, you can see something on the other side. But when you're not really looking with determined focus, it just looks like a curtain. And you'd be like, oh, there's a curtain, I can't see through it. But if you really, really push, it's like that lesson, I think it's 16, push through the clouds. Jesus says, if it helps you to imagine pushing through those clouds, imagine my hand reaching out and taking your hand and pulling you through the clouds. Right now, I never know how to teach this because everybody, you're talking about thought processes, right? pushing through those clouds, pushing up against the veil. There are so many analogies I have for it, but imagine like a bungee rope, you know, like one of those elastic ropes, and it's tied around your waist and it's constantly trying to pull you back. That's the ego, it's constantly against you. It doesn't have the power to pull you back, but you can feel the pull, right? You can feel it, but it can't stop you. You're stronger than it. It can't stop you, but you can feel it. And if you pay attention to the feeling, you'll succumb to that feeling and you'll find yourself pulling back from the veil, right? Which is when Jesus says, take my hand and imagine me leading you through, right? It's like, don't listen to that pull. Don't listen, or don't give any credence to it, right? When Ramana Maharshi says, like, try to find the I am of yourself and you can't find it, keep pushing in that, trying to find it, right? You know there's nothing there. There's no sense of self that validates consciousness. It's an illusion, right? It's like an alphabet soup of thoughts that just go around and around. You try to find where they come from and they can't. You've already thrown the can away, right? They came out of the can. Well, the can's no longer there, but you've just got a jumble of thoughts that seem to make sense to you because that's how your ego organizes it, right? Push through all that. Right, that place where there's no words, it's like I'm done with words. You've got to make a determined choice, and this is a purely meditative process that I'm talking about now. Right, this is purely meditative. When you go into a meditation and you're sitting still for even just a few minutes, and you push against that in your mind, which has been thinned out, that veil, that material or that mist has been thinned out by every single act of forgiveness, by every act of healing. It thins the veil until basically it's almost just a mist, right? You can almost see right through it, like what's on the other side. And I've had people tell me in meditation that many times I've had people tell me they see a light in the distance, but they can't quite get to it, right? Or there's a light there, they know there's a light, or they sense light in their consciousness or behind their thinking, and you can't describe it. You can't talk to other people about it. It's like a little light in the fridge. It just goes on. It's like actual light. In your mind is a portal or is a doorway to another dimension, to another reality, true reality, eternal reality, right? It's your higher mind. When you practice meditation and you make that decision to want to push against the veil, it's like, no, fuck it. I'm not gonna give into that feeling of being pulling back. I'm going to be determined and I'm going to push through those clouds. It's like you're making a decision not to buy into the illusion of limitation and to want to go beyond that, right? God is calling and you're answering here in the form, reading the book and doing the lessons. That's one thing, but eventually you get to those last lessons, right, where it's purely meditative and you're being called now to be still and allow that occurrence to take place. You know, to teach, it's hard to talk about because everybody experiences it somewhat differently in their own mind. Jesus talks about it in that lesson as feeling like you're being drawn forward and up. Whenever I experience it, I feel like I feel it as if I'm falling back and downward, like going back through, dropping through a veil in a different direction. So it doesn't resonate with me in the way in that lesson, but I know what he's talking about, right? My teacher, Greta, she used to talk to me about it or talk to us about it as a little twist in consciousness. She used to teach that you'll come up against a place where you realize your words don't mean anything and you'll refuse to listen to that voice in your head, right? You refuse to listen to the internal dialogue. All of a sudden, in the silence there, once you master, and this is the meditative part, once you master sitting in that silence of refusing to listen to the ego's babble, right, you'll feel a little kind of clunk, a little twist, a little dropping down or stepping up, right? It's really, really hard to explain. You'll feel it. It's almost as if something physical happens in your thinking. right? And you can't talk to people about that. They're like, what do you mean? And you're like, well, I can't explain it. You have to experience it for yourself.
I don't know.
Right, exactly. I don't know what I mean by it. But at that point where that little clunk, that little thing pushing through the veil goes, you'll experience direct light. Right? It's simply like changing the channel on the television. But initially you're up against your own disbelief and your own doubt and everything else, which seems to make that veil quite solid and impenetrable, which is why you have to live by faith alone, so that you have no doubt in your mind you're supported by a higher power. Right? The stronger in faith you become, the easier it is to push. You know, where's Angela? And that's why I love that story of you just getting up off your ass, going to Greece, and you didn't know why. You just put all full faith in that and did it. You know, that's hallelujah. You know, that story. I'm not gonna cross into the bit I'm not supposed to tell you, but that story is going to be an incredible weight of witness for you in months and years to come, that is going to buoy you up in ongoing things of a similar nature. Does that make sense? And every time you you become witness to the miraculous nature, and like some people will call it synchronicity or divine intervention, whatever. Every time you become witness to that in your own experience and have those experiences, it makes you stronger and stronger and stronger. I like to think probably more so than doing workbook lessons and things like that, but they all go hand in hand, you know. But I always think, because we're so used to witnessing to things in the physical nature, when you witness to something that's unexplainable, or you can't really explain it, or you don't know why or what, it tends to not only put another level on top of your experience in the human nature of things, but it gives credit to your spiritual journey as well. You know, you become stronger at it. So I love all those sorts of things. But having no words to talk about how you feel, that's also nice. That's good. But let's have no words and then keep going. Because no words isn't the end of the story. No words isn't the end of the road. It's like no words leads you to the veil. Boom. Is there anyone on the other side, you know?
Well,
So,
I had an opportunity to go into my grandson and granddaughter's apartment, and it was an absolute shithole.
what did you
And
expect?
it was my worst nightmare. It would have been, but somehow I had a distance from it, you know, and because I've been doing a lot of practice around this, knowing all the projection stuff. And I'm standing there and I'm going, well, they're totally overwhelmed with this. They can't do this themselves. Long story short, I'm looking around and I'm going, oh, this shithole is your mind.
Yeah.
And once, you know, there's so much undoing going on. That's the only words I have. So much undoing going on. And that man of honest and my grandchildren, they're bodhisattvas. They are just standing still.
Absolutely they are. Yep.
So they're just standing still for me to undo and unravel all this shit. And I don't even, you know, it's like I saw in the shithole, I saw the truth. It didn't change the appearance, but I'm going, okay, just give me the strength to do what you want me to do next about this with this. So I'm, you know, it's incredible. I'm so grateful all the time, even when I'm not.
Oh, that's good. That's a good bit. To be grateful when you're not grateful. Tina, Anything?
I don't know. Something happened at the beginning of this meeting. I can't quite.
Right. Are you in West LA? Is that where you are?
Yeah. I'm in yeah, I'm not far from West LA. I'm on the west side.
I was just reading an article about West LA. I see, it
I'm
seems
closer
to
to
be
the east. I mean, I'm almost downtown. But North Hollywood is not far. You know about that. Walk of Fame and all that stuff.
movie
like-
stars and stuff.
Yeah, the Walk of Fame. It's like right up the block, right up the street. Too far.
Wow, that's cool.
I mean, not right. I mean, I can't walk it.
Don't
Well, I
put
could
your
walk it.
hands in the cement, and, you know.
Oh, I've done all that stuff. It's all you got to do that.
Is there hands in the cement there with holes in the?
None, not one.
Really?
That's not star worthy. Huh.
It's a load of phonies.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I got real uncomfortable for some reason. I've been so joyful. Whew.
It's good to get uncomfortable.
And real, I feel like I've been, anyway, it doesn't matter what I feel. I just got really uncomfortable.
Like you are now.
Like I am now. Before I had a reason to leave this group, I could always find a trigger. And there's nothing, but I'm sort of feeling really uncomfortable.
Good.
I don't know why.
It's love. Your ego is trying to tell you that you should be comfortable. Right? That voice in your head is, Tina, say that this is uncomfortable. Think of it this way. It's just energy.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the source of all energy? It's God.
Exactly.
Be still. Be still. Let it happen. You ready? Stay with it. Don't look away. Don't try not to feel it. Feel it. Good.
Oh.
Just breathe. Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me.
Oh.
Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me. Fall into that. Fall into it. Ready? Light and peace abide in me. I am as God created. Let it.
Oh.
Beautiful. Yeah, a bit more. Push. It's just energy. Don't label it, just let it pass through. Francois, breathe. Connect. Connect. I'm not separate. I'm not separate from anyone or anything. Good. Breathe. Just breathe. Tina, you're at a place where you don't need to know why you feel the way you feel. You're at a place where you're just trusting Jesus. And all that energy that seems to come and go is just part and parcel of the transformative process. It doesn't have to associate with things and people in your world anymore.
It does.
It's like literally, it's stuff that's beyond comprehension, energy of 1,000 lifetimes. Did you ever watch Poltergeist, that scary movie?
I don't like
Where-
it.
You don't like it?
When it's too scary, I don't want to watch it.
Poltergeist, in its day, it was scary. It was, in its day, Poltergeist was a scary movie because it actually had suspense and everything in it. Nowadays, scary movies are just people getting chopped up in different ways. But the days when actual scary movies, Poltergeist had this little woman. She was a tiny little woman. She was only like 3.5 feet high, like a midget sort of woman. And she was the exorcist. They called her into the house to exorcise the demon that was there, or the poltergeist.
Oh, she had that voice.
Huh?
She had that voice.
Yeah, she had a little person's voice. Yeah. And when she went through the process of exorcising the house, she would cleanse the demon, right? So the demon would go through her and she would experience the energy and she'd have all these kind of like weird reactions to it. She'd do the whole thing. And then she'd realize that that was done, right? It's exactly the same thing that's going on in you. I had exactly the same thing. There was a point in my transformation where I couldn't relate the emotion that I was feeling with situations in my world anymore because the situations in my world all seem to be cool, you know? But Jesus uses me for more than my own immediate vicinity stuff. He's using me on behalf of salvation because that's what I signed up for. So I'll get these packages of energy that would come and I'd be like, what the fuck is this? I feel all of a sudden like anxious or whatever, and I wouldn't know why. But it's the same process. Be still, breathe, let it go through you. You're a channel now. You're a medium. Okay? You got to take that on board for yourself. You're a useful tool in salvation and stuff like that. You'll get things, and the tendency will want to be to try and identify it.
Yeah.
Right? Don't fall into that trap. You know that. You're better than that now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
Just
weird. Yeah.
I know it's weird. What? What's not weird in this? You tell me.
You know what else? When I first met you, the rat thing.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole other thing.
Oh, good.
And it's like I'm not attaching to that occurrence, you know what I mean? It's like all right, this is the same thing as the rat thing, but it's like full on. Like I've had an exterminator here twice in the last couple of weeks. Like it's a full on infestation, and I'm like, it's a full on infestation in this mind. It's just like it's crazy. And anyway, but I'm just being like, I know if there's nothing in form, and that's not the cause of anything. Like that's not it. Yeah, that and yeah, and now the whole thing.
Right. You can be beyond the need to try and validate it now. That's in the beginning because you have to see how your mind works. Right. It's important to validate your own relationships in the idea of healing in the beginning of things, because if you couldn't do that, you wouldn't be able to witness to the power of the miracle. You wouldn't be able to witness to the changes in your life and put faith in them, put faith in the higher power. But it's like you have faith now. You know, you got shit going on.
Yeah.
You don't need to, it's just be about it, Father. It's like me. I don't need to know what's going on. I'll be walking down the street or I'll walk past somebody and I'll just pick up on, I don't want to call it empathetic or anything, but I'll just pick up on some kind of frequency. And it's no longer my own individual mind association thing. It's a higher or a more expansive kind of thing. It's like I remember once Josie, my friend, and I were sitting at a coffee shop, and we're in the outside part on the terrace at a little round table just having a coffee. And behind us, there was a guy, this is a beachside town, right? There's a guy in a black leather jacket and jeans, and his friend who looked a bit scruffy in another kind of jacket. And the week before, there'd been a murder of a well-known woman in town who used to walk her dog the same route every day. And Josie and I both felt this energetic signature. We couldn't tell what it was. I didn't want to label it. It's like it felt horrible. It felt like guilt, and it felt dark, and it felt awful. And Josie said to me, "Can you feel that?" Like she was fully into transformation as well. She goes, "Can you feel that?" And I said, "I feel it." And she said, "I want to leave. I want to get up and leave this coffee shop." And I said, "No, let's not leave. Let's just sit here together for a second and process this." And we processed it. We sat there for a second, just breathing, and allowed all that energy to pass through us, right? And as soon as it was done, I turned around and I made eye contact with one of the guys behind us at the other table, who up until that moment, I didn't recognize they were there. I didn't even realize they were there, or didn't even realize the source of that energy. And I looked at him, and they immediately got up and left, right? But in the immediacy of that action, in the immediacy of that happening, I knew immediately he was forgiven, right? I took on board that without even knowing. I took that energy, that guilt, that everything that he was sitting in that I could feel, and I processed it. I gave it to God on behalf of him, because I'm not separate from him. It's like half the stuff that happens for me now, I don't even know what the hell it's about. I'll be walking through a busy shopping center, and I'll just get a vibe. I'll just get a feeling, a subtle frequency. And I'll be like, what is this? But I no longer try to associate. If I don't know straight up off the bat, I no longer try to associate it with anything in my own immediate story. I just recognize that the Holy Spirit's using me for the greater good. And it's like, at first, that's kind of uncomfortable, because you want to know, and then you're kind of like, all right, use me, Lord. I feel this, use me. I'm a portal for healing. It's what you're feeling now, the same thing exactly. It's all good. Just remember that. It's all good. It's always perfect. Always perfect. If you know what it's about, you can ask within yourself and you'll be told. I've usually found it's better not to ask. Sometimes I'd rather not know. Just work. This house is
the
clean.
strength of Christ.
Right, exactly. This house is clean. You should watch The Poltergeist. It's brilliant. Not the remake. I think they did a remake and it was crap, but the original one. The original one's great. You'll never want to watch the television again.
I just want a television. You know, I don't have a television. I just want a
You
television.
won a television?
That's another thing. It's another whole looping, but it's cool because this time it's just I'm just like watching it all fucking loop. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
infestation. Like I didn't call the exterminator. It's like someone else did, and I didn't do anything about it. I just knew like this was just my thing going on. And then my gig, same thing. Like now there's another fucking contest, and I'm like, oh, I thought I was good with this competition, but now it's a trip to Iceland. So there's a little like maybe I do want to do that, and I'm like, no, fuck, I'm out.
I always wanted to go to Iceland.
I know, and I got a one for. If I win, I get to take a person. So, but anyway, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Win it,
I
win
don't
it,
want
let's
to,
go.
brother. I don't
Come
want
on.
to. I don't want
Do
to.
it. Do
But
it.
I'm gonna
do
do it just like I did it before.
Let's go to Iceland and go naked in those big things with all the villagers. You know, they all half naked in the hot springs together.
It'll have to be the same way. It'll have to be the same way.
It'll
So,
be
Northern
miraculous.
Lights.
if Jesus wants me to go, then it'll happen. Yeah. I'm like, I
my
can't.
bucket list. My bucket list before salvation was always to go visit my friends in Norway, go up to Iceland, swim naked in those boiling hot volcanic springs,
Yeah.
and lights, and drink margaritas or so, I don't know what the hell, but it was a tangible bucket list thing, and now you're going to do it.
They just sprung it
That's
on me
great.
yesterday, so I wanted a
I'm the
television.
plus one.
The
I'm the
television
plus one
is
for
done.
that.
Yeah, and they sprung it on me yesterday. It's like I was like, fucking, it starts on Monday, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to. Ah,
Remember,
yeah.
that's the same thing you had with the last contest for the
Exactly,
Jordan.
exactly, and it was so helpful. What
I
happened?
can
with all
choose
that.
again.
So it was so helpful, so helpful.
Right.
So yeah,
Good.
More will be revealed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let it happen.
Don't touch that dial. Anyone else? Francois, all good? You're pitch black. All I can see is a silhouette. Vinka, all good? She's good.
Yeah, maybe I just, pardon the silhouette. Yeah, Monday, I had just terror. I've never experienced this terror. I couldn't even touch my course book. I felt like just terror. And eventually, when my mind got clear, I asked, what was this? And it always comes back to the fear of God, the fear of love.
Yep.
It's a big thing.
Yep.
I heard the words fear of God so clearly in my mind. It just, and then
Yep.
fear of your brother, and then I have a deep fear of God.
It's a fear. The one thing we don't want to do is love ourselves unconditionally. Because we don't have a true reference to what ourself is.
Yeah, no.
The fear of God, you know, like it says in the course, the fear of God takes some preparation before you can look upon it. And it's like that's going to be a whole thing, right? In itself, that is the process of salvation, really. When you can see what's actually going on, you're being prepared for revelation, right? Which is reunification with God, which is remembrance of God, the whole thing. It's like that's just not like going to the corner store and buying a bottle of milk. That takes some preparation, right? You're doing fine. I know you're doing fine. The fact that you actually saw the fear of God in you, that's really good. That's like more advanced than I would have probably thought you were at, but that's good.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything that's going to make you want to backpedal from that. But my prayer would be to have the Holy Spirit with me more in a more abiding sense, in a more abiding capacity as far as my faith goes and everything, so that I can actually face that as quickly as possible. Right. But that's just me. some people are not. I like the adventure. I like to throw myself in the deep end. Maybe you're not like that, but the fact that you're experiencing the fear of God and it's the fear of God means that you're at a place where you can see it, and it's like, man, that wasn't revealed to me for quite some time.
Yeah.
I don't know how long you've been doing the course or anything, but that was something that I confronted without the course, before the course came into my life, but it was still a long, long time before that dawned on me that that's what I was afraid of, even though I couldn't put it into words, but it was a non-logical fear for me. That's good. You're hearing the Holy Spirit's voice. That's good. Everything's good. You're in good hands. Just
Yeah,
stay in
I
that,
think
stay
that-
abiding, you know, like I don't even really need to tell you anything. Like stay in the abiding seems ridiculous to tell you because you are already, but you know, abide with the Holy Spirit and like step into that. If a lot of people experience that, and I'll just give you this side of the coin, right? So a lot of people experience the terror or the fear of God, which is Jesus talks about it as a tiny moment of terror. That tiny moment of terror is what occurs just before enlightenment, right? At the moment you cross the threshold of that moment of terror, you won't even have time to say, what the fuck? It'll be so quick, you know, you won't have time to even know what the hell's going on, and you'll be back in eternity. You'll be like, it's like Jesus talks about it as in the twinkling of an eye. It's that quick, right? In the twinkling of an eye, you'll be transformed, transfigured, and invulnerability will take on eternal life or whatever it is. I forget. Tina knows. She's my biblical go-to. So now that's only good. That's good. But a lot of people do experience that and don't equate with what that terror is. And then they recoil from it and spend a whole lifetime perhaps trying to avoid it. Right? Don't try to avoid it. You know it's there now. You know it's in you. You know that there's this place of, pardon me, confrontation that when you're ready, you'll be able to make that confrontation with that terror. And remember, the terror is an illusion, right? It only has the meaning you give it, right? Being aware that it's there, being aware that there is that block or that fear within you, which is the last block. If you look at the obstacles to peace, it's the fourth one, the fear of God. Right? Being aware that that's within you now gives you something not only to work towards, but something to be more vigilant for in your practicing, right? Because in essence, every time you encounter any moment of fear, that's going to be what that block is. I talk about it sometimes as like an iceberg. You know, we see a fearful situation on the surface, but if we allow ourselves to dig down under the surface of consciousness, realize how big that iceberg actually is, and if we can allow ourselves to encompass the total emotionality contained in that whole iceberg, right? That iceberg in its entirety represents the fear of God. Right? We tend to break into chunks and say, well, you know, it's the desire to get rid of peace, and it's what are the other obstacles to peace, but the misuse of the body and all these things and whatever. And we sort of chip away at it. You know, you've been shown the whole iceberg straight up front, which to me would tend to suggest you're probably ready to deal with it, or almost ready to deal with it, or something. But, you know, I don't know. It's different for everyone, which is why I can't really tell you anything specific for you about that, other than that it's good. It may not feel great. It may not feel great, but, you know, like, go for it. You know, abide with the Holy Spirit and go for it. I'm not going to tell. Obviously, there's nothing to fear there, really. You know, fear.
Don't they? Yeah. Don't they?
I mean,
these
if you and me
stages, mighty companions are with us.
Right, exactly. If Francois, if you and me were standing on the edge of a cliff right now, 1,000-foot cliff, I'd push you over the edge.
Oh my God.
Because I know you have it in you to fly. I know that you have it in you to actually spread your wings and go. You may still have a little doubt about that, but I know damn well that nobody can look upon the fear of God and not be really prepared for it. You may only not recognize your preparedness. That's probably about it.
She took the
Yeah.
leap and built her wings on the way down.
Have you unmuted your microphone? Yes, much the same. The wings have been with you all along. But anyway, sit with that. I mean, you know, like beautiful, beautiful. I don't really have anything else to say. It's great. That's like the end of the journey, really. You've gone straight to the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, it's a threshold. There's a threshold there. That terror is a threshold. When you're ready, you'll just push through it and it'll be done. It's like Tina. Tina's there. She's in the same she's in exactly the same position in the threshold, but she's also being used by other things because she put her hand up in class to be used. She wanted to be helpful. You know, some of us want to and hang out here for a while and do stuff and help others, and others of us just want to get on and remember God and move on to the next plane. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no nothing. I put my hand up to be helpful too, and as soon as I found myself back here in the world, instantly regretted it. But at the same time, knew that I didn't want to leave my brothers. I knew how much I loved everybody, and it's like, fuck yeah, I'm doing this anyway. You know, whatever that looks like. Anyway, that's it. Everybody good? I love you. Look what this says. Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me. Who the hell who writes like that?
Somebody woke as fuck.
What? Somebody woke as fuck. Woke as fuck. Light and joy and peace abide in me. I am as God created me. Peace. I have to find my leave icon.
Please do. Bye. Love you guys. Vinkas. Hi, Vinka. I was happy to see you today. Oh, well, yeah. I was so excited when you said you were coming. You were setting your alarm.
Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to join, and I thought, right, I'm setting the alarm. So
Set it again next week, okay? I was so happy when I saw that. I don't know if I put a heart on it. What's that?
I'm coming to Iceland with you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Guess I got to win all the trips. I got to win everything now.
Yeah, go do it. I'm doing ice sculptures.
I know. Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Oh,
I mean, anyway, I'm trying to. This competition in this mind. All
okay,
right.
love you.
Love you. I'm gonna put you in our chat, okay? So we've got a little private chat room. I'm gonna put you in there because I know you want to be.
Cool.
All right. Love
Okay,
you.
bye.
Bye.